along swiftly, darlings. So, my dears, the next story I wanted to bring to you is about the green-eyed king in waiting and boo-boo kitty, I don't have any fashion sense, Katie, upsetting the neighbours because they've erected a fence around their 150-acre fifth forever home at the public expense in Forest Lodge, and they've locked out the little people and the serfs. And it's important to note that Forest Lodge had all of those residents prior to the new residents moving in paying a monthly fee of £150, I think it was, so they could wander around the grounds freely. And I'm sure during that time they thought they were royalty until the real royalty moved in, and they were moved along quickly like the rest of the commoners. Be gone, you wretched urchins, from this important land that we now wish to occupy fully. Sound familiar? So this article is from People magazine, and it says Kate Middleton and Prince William's future neighbours voice concerns over security measures. And I think I'm going to invite the author in to be Sycophant of the Week. At least there's so many this week, darling. And it's remarkable we have a repeat offender, Stephanie Petite. Stephanie Petite, come in, darling. We'll make a small space available for you, Miss Petite. We have had the misfortune of seeing you once before. So she writes, Kate Middleton and Prince William's future neighbours voice concerns over security measures. And one of the reasons she's a contender this week for Sycophant of the Week is because of that headline. What she does not say in that headline is that the cost of them moving into this abode is going to be met by the public purse. And that the reason that the neighbours are voicing concerns is because they've been booted out. They've been told you need to move. 2 people have been evicted, but that's not going to be there on the that's not going to be there in the strapline, especially as the green-eyed king in waiting is working on homelessness. Did you know that the person he evicted was a 92-year-old cardiologist? So much for his humanity and concern for, mature people and homeless individuals. You made the people homeless by kicking them off your land. Get back to the article, delete. One local called recent closures a kick in the teeth, written in very small writing. She says, as Kate Middleton and Prince William prepare to move to Forest Lodge in Windsor, new security measures around the home are affecting the neighbours. They're not just preparing to move, that is a 150-acre site, Miss Petite. It's not petite. They have to erect a fence around the entire perimeter. There needs to be surveillance, a police presence, the erection of trees, and constant security. You also fail to mention it's their 5th home in their Forever Home collection, and that they also earn £2 million a month for shaking hands with dignitaries and attending Zoom calls and sending ChatGPT texts. According to The Times, a 2.3-mile perimeter has been enacted around the Forest Lodge. Is it playing a part in a pantomime that we are all paying for? Yes, it is. Where the Prince and the Princess of Wales plan to relocate by the end of the year. No mention of the number of holidays and the private jets that they're using at the public expense. 28 residents, obviously a very exclusive group before they arrived, no longer have access to the area. Boo-hoo. And will now be classed. Can you remember when they rocked up and thought that they were, we're very posh living here. Now you're trespassers. And if you do go anywhere close to the perimeter, they will be arrested under the Home Office's security plans. Oh dear. One of the exclusive 28, who is now just a commoner who's been booted off the estate, said that they'd been walking their dog there for 20 years and that they pay $150 roughly, or in a conversion, so that they could use the space. He laments, they've only given us a few days' notice to say that this section of the forest is closing forever, she added. Now we'll need to get in my car and drive further afield to take my dog for a walk. First world problems, I'm sure. In addition, she writes rather mildly that the Daily Mail previously reported that 2 households near Forest Lodge were asked to vacate earlier in the summer, and that tenants have moved to similar or better housing within the Windsor Great Park, with everyone remaining in the Crown Estate properties. Oh, that's such a comfort, isn't it, darlings? Miss Petite now goes on to tell us that Prince William and Princess Kate will continue not to have any live-in staff after they move into Forest Lodge. Do you think anyone's going to believe that? They're living in the Outer Hebrides. Between the two of them, they can't boil an egg. Everybody knows that somebody else is raising their children. So someone needs to be living close by. And we also know that that marriage ended on the cliffs of Dover like a collection of lemmings leaping to their deaths. So somebody needs to do the work around there. But she doesn't question that. Of course she doesn't, because that's not her function here. She's here to tell you what to think about the whole situation, as opposed to what we really should be doing is asking the entire question. Why do they need another home? Why is it being done up at the public expense? Why are they evicting long-term residents there? Those who've been paying to walk their dogs. You know, they might have been a bit on the privileged side, but they still had the right to walk there. And suddenly they've just been told, excuse me, move along, because frankly, you're no longer welcome and we can just boot you off the land. That's the conversation we should be having. But instead, she talks about there being somewhat slight disgruntlement around the fact that people have been evicted and they no longer have access and they've got to drive in their cars to walk their dogs. Ooh, boo-hoo. This whole article censors the Doolittle Duchess and the Green-Eyed King in Waiting as only mildly behaving in a way that if you compare their wealth and what they already have, there was no need for them to even move into this property. There was no need for them to curtail the land to such an extent, given that they've got so many other places they could have potentially lived in, and they wouldn't have had to engage in such extensive security, as well as, you know, using public funds once again for this exercise. They can fund this stuff themselves. And at no point in this article does Miss Petite make reference to that. She talks about the loss of the land to dog walkers as opposed to the loss of the land to the nation. We've got a homeless crisis. You know, all the new homes that are built in them practically in the UK, they're for hedge funds. So we don't have it. We've got a housing crisis and investment firms. Why don't we talk about the use of the land? Of course not. And for this benign article that centres a mild criticism of the royal family whilst ignoring their huge wealth, their inherited wealth, their continued billionaire lifestyle at the public expense, she tries to, you know, show them in a not so bad light. And for acting as a pair of kidneys and filtration for this system, she gets Sycophant of the Week, darlings. Stephanie Petite of People magazine, you are a second-time winner of Sycophant of the Week. You haven't disappointed. Well done for writing that absolutely foul article. I'm sure we'll have the misfortune of crossing paths once again. Stephanie Petite of People magazine, you are the winner of Sycophant of the Week. Thank you, Stephanie, darling. Take a bow, darling.